Today, we are going to end our 4-part series on the RPG Elite quality number 8. It's about the story. This is an RPG Elite philosophy video, which we do at the beginning of every month until we get to the end. And we've been going through this one as the longest quality. We've had 4 parts to this one because for an RPG Elite, this is the most important part. Now, I have to emphasize that RPG Elite philosophy is for RPG Elites. It's for those who have this viewpoint. It's for those who look at all 10 of these qualities and say yes and amen. And they say it vigorously. Now, you might like some of the RPG Elite philosophy. You might choose one quality over here and say, yeah, I'm down with that, but I'm not down with that. And that's fine. You could be RPG Elite and not be an RPG Elite. I've talked about that before, but in the long run, to find an RPG Elite, someone who adheres to all 10 of the RPG Elite qualities in the RPG Elite philosophy, it's rare. And this is a high standard. It is a lofty attitude towards tabletop RPGs. It is what it is. So it's not for everyone. I'm not saying that this is something that is for the general public, because it isn't. Hence the term RPG Elite. Otherwise, why in the world would we put that elite at the end? It's not for everyone. This is a problem that some people have with my channel, is that they think that I'm talking about everybody. If I'm not talking to you, then I ain't talking to you. And especially when it comes to RPG Elite philosophy, if you ain't down with it, then apparently I'm not talking to you. I'm only talking to those who are RPG Elites or are down with this particular RPG Elite quality. This one here is huge. It's about the story. We're going to end it up today. And if this is your first time coming to the channel and you're wondering, what is this dude on? Where's he going? And what's he talking about? It's your boy Servant in the hizzy, and this is RPG Elite. This is the place where we put the RP back in the RPG. We give you tools, tips, tutorials, and as we are going to do today, real talk about the tabletop RPG space and culture. So let's get straight into the video today. Let's end this up by defining something that I talked about in the last video. It seems to get mixed up and people get confused about this particular thing. So let's hit that first. So this particular issue of understanding that the GM has the responsibility for the plot. Remember I said there's 3 things: plot, setting, and NPCs. And some people think that the plot is, no, there's no plot. Listen, if there's no plot, then there's no story. And if there's no story, an RPG Elite is not even going to be a part of it. But again, we're talking about how the story is written in a tabletop RPG, how the story is told, because we've already said that this is a storytelling medium. And we've listed all the rest of them: film, television, novels. There are many different storytelling mediums, and this is one of them, but it has a unique way of storytelling. But you have to understand the different basic things of a story. And plot is a basic thing of a story. Having a basic plot in a tabletop RPG is the purview of the GM. Now, some people, they talk to their characters about that. RPG Elites don't like to do that because they like to be surprised, because they like to discover things. That is an RPG Elite attitude. So when it comes to plot, it doesn't mean script. Those are 2 different things. And it doesn't mean hook either. Now, you have to understand the different elements of story. And a plot is not a hook, and the hook is not a script, and the script is not a plot. So when we look at that, a script is something that's, it's pre-written, it's all the way, it's detailed out and all the rest of that. Now, it doesn't mean that A campaign or session or anything can't have pre-scripted elements within it. It can. How you implement those pre-scripted elements is where some people have a problem because they probably had a bad experience with somebody who didn't implement it correctly. But don't let anybody tell you that pre-scripted elements are bad for tabletop RPGs. No, it's not. They're not, if you use them correctly. So let me give you an example of a plot, something very simple. So the PCs discover the body of a dead secretary, and they must find out who murdered her. There's your basic plot right there. Doesn't really have to go beyond that. Now, there might be several subplots that may develop as you guys go through, but there's your basic plot. Again, a plot is not a hook. It's not a script. It's not a plot. They are all three separate things, and understanding the difference between the three is understanding how these are elements of a story, but not the story. Well, the first thing is it's not pre-scripted, like in a way for a movie or some television or film or anything else, any of the other mediums that we talked about, comic books. It's not pre-scripted like those. Now, you may have scripted elements within it, and that's normally from the GM side of things. But these elements are potential parts of the story. It doesn't mean that they are necessarily a part of the story because they are scripted, and understanding that is key. And a scripted element is something like a module. And there are scripted elements inside of a module, but a module is nothing but a framework, a skeleton that a story can happen in. It is not the story. See, this is what I'm talking about. Understanding what a story is key. We haven't even gotten to the story yet, but understand the story is not pre-scripted. It's not written all the way out. That's not a story in a tabletop RPG. And that is what is the number one thing that separates the story of a tabletop RPG and the storytelling of a tabletop RPG from all the other mediums that we looked at. Now, this next point is something that is similar to other storytelling mediums. And that is that it should be about the player characters. This should totally be about player characters. They should be the focus. They should be the ones who are center stage. It is as if the GM is facilitating the NPCs and the setting for the PCs who are the main characters. A tabletop RPG story should be player character driven. And most of the stories throughout history are character driven. The very few plot driven stories that are good are, I believe, anomalies. Most stories that people get invested into and they are drawn into is when it is about the characters. So as a GM, that is what you need to make it about. You need to make it about the characters, and everybody is involved in putting the characters center stage. And you as a GM, it's kind of like watching a television series and watching for like 10 years, these characters grow up and develop, 10 seasons, the same television program, right? And you are more invested as a GM because you have more say in the things that are thrown at them and how they develop and different elements, and seeing how they will react to all of these different things in the campaign. You have a more direct connection with them. So there's a stronger bond there than just watching a television show. And you know how some people get real attached to characters in movies and television shows and all the rest of this stuff. I mean, shoot, have you ever, talked to people about the Lord of the Rings? A Lord of the Rings fan is rabid. You understand? Yeah, that includes this guy. So we take these characters and setting and all that. We take these things seriously. We're invested, but it's the characters that are center stage. And if you're an RPG elite, you understand that, whether you're a GM or whether you're a PC, you understand all of that. That is the contract at the table, and that is what it should be about. So last is the actual story itself, because what we've just focused on really is the one thing that a story is not. But where's the story? Well, the story is in two forms in a tabletop RPG. Think of the players and the GM as one unit together. And we're going to call this one unit a writer. So when the characters and the GM get together, they're operating as one unit and they are writing the story. So a session is the writer tapping away at the keyboard, writing the story. When the session is over, that is when the writer has stopped and the story has been written. That's what's different between a tabletop RPG and all the rest of those other storytelling mediums, because all the rest of those are pre-scripted and characters do certain things depending on the script, but not so with a tabletop RPG. With a tabletop RPG, the story is written when the players get together with the GM and as one unit, write. That's where the story is. And it is written at the end of every session until you get to the very end of a campaign, which basically may be the end of a book or novel or the movie or television show or whatever. That's how a story is told in a tabletop RPG. And when it's not about the story, when it's not about getting together, when it's not about characters, when it's not about discovery, when it's not about all of these different elements, but it's about just characters going around doing something for no reason and going nowhere with no plot and anything, RPG elites have no interest. None. And normally when you have that, you just have a whole bunch of banal characters. They're 2D going around doing nothing with no purpose and going nowhere. Okay, we don't want to have anything to do with that. That might be your deal. That might be your bag, but it ain't ours. And we just won't waste our time. And different RPG elites may approach it differently, but at the end of the day, the answer to people who play that in that sandboxy, no purpose kind of way is no. But do your thing, because you're going to anyway. But we're not going to be there because it's about the story. I was just talking to one of my players the other day in the One Ring campaign that I run, and he said something very cool. He said, I don't care if my character dies or anything like that. I just want to be a part of the experience and the story. In general, I'm just kind of giving you the cliff notes. That's basically what he said. And that's our attitude. We want to be a part of the experience. We want to be a part of the writing of the story. We want to see the story developing. We want to be a part of that. It's about the story. When it's not, then we have no interest. That's why role-playing is so important for an RPG elite. And even though some of us may be better at it than others, it's important because we are part of the story. We're writing something. We're experiencing something. This is something that's important to us. So let's do it, man. Let's experience something great together. That's the attitude of an RPG elite. For others, it's kind of like a board game, kind of a throwaway thing or whatever. Okay, that's you, not us. We ain't investing hours of our time with people who don't care. Because we do care, and we care deeply because it's about the story. What do you think? Is it about the story for you? That's the question of the vid. The question of the vid is it about the story for you? Or is it about something else? What's the most important aspect of playing tabletop RPGs for you? For an RPG elite, it's going to be about the story, but for you, it might be something else. Go ahead, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. If you like this video, then go ahead, smash the like button, crush it, annihilate it, grind it. Ugh! And then, of course, if you like any of the other videos on the channel, then consider subscribing to the channel. But now is the time where I have to dip on out.
So exit, stage left.
Happy gaming, everyone. I pray you have a wonderful week, and God willing, I will see you on Friday. And until then, take a gander at these videos here. So, peace, God bless, and hair grease.